but suffering. And, you know, but I have to say this about Black Elk. He's a very endearing person. I mean, by the time you finish reading Black Elk, you really love this guy. You say, well, he's an Uncle Tom. Well, maybe he is an Uncle Tom, although he does take up weapons against the American forces at the end in the Wounded Knee situation. When the ghost dance is going on among the Native Americans. You may not know that situation back in end of 1880, beginning of 1890, the last gasp of the Plains Indians' resistance to the U.S. government. And by the way, there were black troops that helped put that down. They were the troops, in fact, they were the troops that the Native Americans feared the most, the so-called Buffalo Soldiers. I say, well, they were just being used by the American government. Yeah, I don't say they weren't, but they were there, and they were involved in that, and they were some of the troops that were the most frightened, that the Native Americans were most frightened of, as I think the black units in the American Army have proved to be extremely effective soldiers. So as we're seeing today in Iraq. So for good or for bad, that's a fact of life. And there's a certain kind of honor involved in that too. It's not all the opposite. In any case, Black Elk does take up arms against the U.S. government, and he does ride into the situation, and he believes that he can't be wounded, he believes he can't be killed, and I forget, I think he is either wounded or knocked off his horse, but it's almost a Don Quixote-like episode towards the end of this book. Now, Black Elk is a Native American shaman. I think, in fact, that Carlos Castaneda really takes almost everything that he's trying to present himself as from this Joseph Neihardt person here, who takes down the conversations of Black Elk in the 1930s or 40s, I think, and made this book. One of the problems we have here, I think, is how much of this really is Black Elk and how much of this is Joseph Neihardt. Joseph Neihardt is the editor, and he was a novelist himself, and it was in the Depression period when the Roosevelt administration was paying people to do cultural projects to keep them, you know, working and active, and there was government money to do this kind of thing, and Neihardt went on to the so-called Indian reservations and got in contact with Black Elk, who knew the whole story of what had happened to the Native Americans from his tribal area, and had experienced much of it himself, and took it all down before he died. Now, your version of Black Elk, they keep reprinting new ones, so we have to buy new ones with different pages. But we have some of the paintings of Black Elk's people in this. I think Black Elk did some of the paintings that we have here. And we have some pictures also. So the paintings have been added. I don't have the paintings, but in fact, there's a picture of Black Elk here as a young man. If you look here, I think he's on the left there. There's a picture of Joseph Neihardt. There's a picture of Joseph Neihardt with Black Elk, some of Black Elk's friends, as he appeared later. And here's Black Elk and Joseph Neihardt when they're old men. Here's Joseph Neihardt with Black Elk's drum that he gave him in later life. Now, one of the things that I think we're going to have to decide here is how much of this we can rely on, the same as Carlos Castaneda. Now, the beautiful thing about Black Elk is that he lived through the Custer thing. He was a young boy, about 13 years old, so you can then date him when the Custer massacre occurred. He was on the battlefield. He was protecting his family from the Custer's troops, but later he rode around the battlefield and saw the dead soldiers and all that sort of thing. He was a distant relative of Crazy Horse. He knew Crazy Horse. He tells you about Crazy Horse's death at the hands of soldiers, American soldiers. Native American, Indian reservation soldiers who were combined. He knows about Sitting Bull's death. He knows all these people, but he's also a religious person himself. He's a totally religious person, and this is, I think, whether it's Neihart or Black Elk or the